Hey, I'm Olivia, and you're listening to Soarin Around WDW. There is a lot of news going around at Disney World. I mean, for a few months, I feel like we had not much in the world of news, and now there is so much news happening all at once. But wanted to kick off first with the new Millennium Falcon adventure that is featuring Mando and Grogu will be debuting at both Disneyland and Hollywood Studios on May 22nd, 2026, so next year, the same day that the new movie will premiere in theaters. I think this just continues to add to the re-rideability of this attraction, making it a little new and different. You don't always get the same exact thing every single time, which is great. So that will be debuting next year, and that was just announced in the last few weeks here. And then Rope Drop at Magic Kingdom has changed. You now can go directly to the ride and get in the line either at Fantasyland or Tomorrowland for whichever attraction you are trying to rope drop. You do not have to line up on either bridge anymore. Hollywood Studios has already implemented this according to other visitors. I have not rope dropped Hollywood Studios in a long time, so I wasn't familiar with how they did it there. I know at Epcot, typically you queue up on the bridge, and then as it gets closer, they might bring you into the queue of the attraction. But now Magic Kingdom, which has been a bridge rope drop for quite a while, is beginning queuing in the attraction early so that you can get on the ride right when park open drops, which is awesome. Definitely save yourself a few minutes and you know where you're at in the line once you get there instead of being in this big crowd of people. Now they are also releasing a documentary series about the making of a Goofy movie, which is titled Not Just a Goof. This is releasing on Disney Plus shortly here on April 7th. So I'm very excited about this. A Goofy movie, I feel like, has come back in popularity because millennials are getting older. And I'm not going to just say it's because of millennials, but it is extremely popular again, Powerline in particular. So I'm excited to see a little more behind the scenes about this awesome classic movie. And as well, some other news, new Visa Rewards card members do have early access for a free dining plan during their stay. Early access is already happening. It was starting March 20th through the 26th for select dates only, but the full booking window for all people, not just card holders, is through May 1st. So you can book through May 1st, and value and moderate get the quick service. If you book, I believe it's 4 days, and it has to be a park hopper ticket, then they gift you a dining plan for your entire party that has that linked to their ticket package, as well as deluxe resorts get the full dining plan, so table service included. In my opinion, is this a good deal? Maybe. I'd have to really sit down and do the math. If you want to hear more about our Disney dining plan thoughts, go back to our Disney dining debate episode that we did early on. I think the fact that you have to book park hopper tickets and the deluxe resort to get the actual sit down dining plan, you're probably spending more money on the park tickets than you need to. I don't know that anybody needs 4 days of park hoppers to have a great time at Disney World. But that's just my personal opinion. I think it's nice in theory that they're gifting this to people who are already going to be spending money on that. But if this wasn't already in your budget, I would not change your tickets to get the free dining plan because it really isn't free. You're paying a lot more money for hoppers than you are for regular meals. It's just something to kind of price out and see if it would work for your family or not, what the cost difference is. But it is something that they are offering. The, again, Visa card member access for early access is through actually today, so March 26th, and then the full booking window is through May 1st. So keep an eye out on that. Talk to your travel agent, see if it would be best for you. Coco 2 is also in the works. This is one that I was not expecting a sequel on. I have mixed feelings about this. I really loved Coco. I think it's an awesome movie. I'm very curious where the plot is going to go with this because I felt like it came full circle and there's really not much else to discuss in the world of Miguel. I don't know if they're going to go with another character and kind of follow their story, but I do love Coco, so hopefully it will be good. I think it's cool that they're going to make this and then the ride at Disneyland is going to be coming soon. So just something to look out for as they start to announce more information. They really just announced that it's coming, no other details yet that I had seen. There are also some rumors of Figment getting a TV series, which is interesting. I know Figment is a very big character and a lot of people really love him. I really love him. My kids really love him. But I do think the actual attraction could use a little bit of an overhaul before they were to release a TV series about this. So I'm curious to see what the TV series is. I feel like that would be expensive to make, so why not just put that money into the attraction? But I think it could be cute. We'll see kind of where they go with it. If it's going to be more like the original rides plot line or what plot line they're actually going to follow and how it will go. I think it is supposed to be animated from what I've read. So we'll see, to be determined. There was a fire in the France Pavilion on March 22nd. And from the details that I had seen, there was big, large clouds of smoke. If you haven't seen the photos, it's pretty impressive behind the Remy's Ratatouille Adventure ride in the France Pavilion. And so they kind of evacuated that area and that pavilion, got everybody out, and then they realized that it was from a walk-in cooler that had set fire. They put the fire out. There was no other damage that I have heard. And as far as I'm aware, Remy's was up back and running, I believe the next day, maybe the day after. So glad everybody's okay. There wasn't any actual, ride or attraction damage that I know of. Nobody was hurt that I'm aware of in this incident, but the pictures were pretty impressive. People could see it from the boardwalk. It looked like something exploded. So yeah, just something to kind of keep an eye on. And then the Jonas Brothers are recording Disneyland's 70th anniversary official celebration song, which is called Celebrate Happy. So I am very excited about this. I think it's going to be such a cute song. I'm sure. I love the Jonas Brothers. I think they were a great pick for it. They're big Disney people, obviously. So definitely excited to see what they come up with for this and how it goes. An update on our attraction showdown that we are doing over on Instagram. So we are down to the Sweet 16 now. Tomorrow I will be posting more polls to continue voting down to the Elite Eight, Final Four, and then the championship. The attractions that are still remaining are Expedition Everest, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Tron, Test Track, Pirates of the Caribbean, the TTA People Mover, Soarin', Tower of Terror, Cosmic Rewind, Haunted Mansion, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Kilimanjaro Safari, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Rise of the Resistance, and Toy Story Mania. So those are our 16 remaining attractions. We will be having continued face-offs until we get down to the champion attraction. And it's funny, a lot of people have been participating in this, which is awesome. It's so much fun when people actually participate in the polls and are into it. And I have seen a lot of hot takes on what people think are going to make it to the Final Four. Some people's were already knocked out, but it's really fun to kind of hear different opinions. It's also interesting to see how close things get and kind of what takes over. So, for example, like Haunted Mansion beat out Space Haunted Mansion beat out Space Mountain, which I'm happy about. I do think that's correct, but I was surprised because I feel like Space Mountain is such an e-ticket attraction that people really love and it's a roller coaster. So I always feel like those tend to win out. Another one that I was happy about, but it surprised me, was the TTA People Mover beat out Slinky Dog Dash. So if you're not happy with the outcomes, make sure you get on there and vote for what you want. It's been really fun to have people participate and get into it. But that's all the news that I have for this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode where we're talking about the Echo Lake section of Hollywood Studios. And Dad and I get into some favorite stories from this area of the park and what we really love about it, what we think it's lacking. So listen and enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back and happy Wednesday. Today, we are going to jump into a new episode about Hollywood Studios and all that it has to offer, starting with the Echo Lake area of the park. And this area had a lot more to talk about than I thought. I feel like I say that almost every week, but there's just a lot of little things that they've added into this section, history things, and things that have stayed for quite a long time. So I'm excited to get into it with Dad again today. And just to start off with a little bit of history about Echo Lake itself, I didn't know this, and I had to look up a picture, which I put into our notes here, but it is the park's small oval-shaped lagoon. That is when you walk in down the main strip on Hollywood Boulevard and you turn to the left, it's the little lagoon over there, and originally was designed to form one of the ears in what they made into an enormous hidden Mickey from the park's original layout. And I'll have to post this picture on our Instagram this week and try to throw it into the YouTube video. But I pulled it up and I was like, oh, now I see it. The eyes, the nose, both ears. Did you know this, Dad, when you looked at a map in the old days that it used to make Mickey Mouse like that?
This is the first time I ever heard of this.
Yeah, me too. I was like looking up history of Echo Lake and they said this and I was like, what? And I looked up the picture and I was like, oh, I see it, but I never had heard that before. So that was interesting to me. So yeah, that's like a little bit just about Echo Lake, but the attraction starting with one of our favorites. I know it's been there forever. Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. It was not an opening day attraction per se, but we'll talk a little bit about the history of it. It technically opened to the public August 25th, 1989, so shortly after opening day. And Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular is based on many of the popular stunt scenes from the movie, specifically Raiders of the Lost Ark, but has some nods to other movies in it as well. It is technically the oldest attraction in the park now because Great Movie Ride is gone, Backlot Tour is gone, and those were two of the oldest attractions prior to this. They were opening day attractions. So this was called an opening day attraction technically because on opening day, guests were allowed to watch the dress rehearsals of the show until it officially opened August 25th. So it is, in some people's minds, considered an opening day attraction, but it is the oldest attraction in the park. And the show opened in what was called the Stunt Theater as the first Indiana Jones attraction at any Disney park at the time, and was put on a 6 month hiatus back in 2000 for a big refurbishing. The show's theater holds about 2,000 people, and every seat really does have a great view. This is one of the few theaters, well, I mean, a lot of the theaters at Disney do have a great view, but really anywhere you sit, the front, the back, the middle, you get a great view of everything going on the stage, and there's really not a bad seat in the house. And when the show premiered, Indiana Jones carried a pistol as he does in the movies, but now he only carries his whip. And the bizarre scene stunt team used to have large swords, which now have been replaced by sticks, which I actually didn't realize until I looked at pictures and I was like, oh, I just remember the swords. So, like in my head, did you know that they changed this to sticks, Dad?
No, I don't think I have seen that version, so I haven't been there in quite a while. So no, I had no idea they changed it to sticks. I have no idea. Well, I have an idea why, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe it's just politically correctness or something. I don't know.
It was interesting to me. Sticks, I was like, huh, that's not as scary as swords. I don't know. The whip is like the gun I get, it's like, okay, whatever. The whip is like obviously the big part of Indiana Jones. He has to have his whip. And then in 2004, they took off the Nazi swastikas on the German trucks and the aircraft and the actor uniforms, and they replaced it, I'm going to totally butcher this, with a Ballenkreuz, which is another symbol. And the action sequence originally featured these deaths of some of the actors, and that is eliminated as well, which I just saw this last year, and I could have sworn that, spoiler alert for those of y'all who haven't seen this, you might want to skip ahead a couple minutes, but the guy at the end that gets run over by the airplane and gets sucked down in, I thought he still did that and died, but maybe I'm misremembering. This is something that we see almost every single time we go to Hollywood Studios. It's one of my favorite shows. So I thought that that was still there, but it must not be. And this is the first theme park attraction to use a computer-based show control system in conjunction with a custom-made programmable logic controller system to trigger, control, and sequence complex live events in real time. And sometimes it's controlled by the actual actors. And all the other effects are triggered by a cast member that's in the booth, which is kind of right near the front of the stage. Well, I guess like in the middle section. And the original control system was based on the Amiga computer with software by Richmond Sound Design. And the show is always upgrading its electronics and computer elements to keep it up to date. Obviously, a lot has changed with computers since 1989, but this did begin a trend in live stunt shows with both Walt Disney World and Universal Studios opening a lot more similar attractions over the next 8 years. But this was kind of the very beginning of all of that. So the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular did incorporate audience participation, which we'll talk a little bit about, as part of the show's entertainment until COVID hit. And now they dropped it. There is no more audience participation, which is such a bummer. That was one of the best parts of the show. But this show has more moving parts than any other live show at Walt Disney World. And each set for each scene weighs around 100 tons that they kind of move in and out with these big trucks. The giant rolling ball that Indy dodges in the beginning of the show is 12 feet in diameter and weighs over 400 pounds, but it's made all of rubber. So it is very heavy. The performer playing Indiana Jones changes into a new costume after every show because of the wear and tear. So it gets so beat up they can't really reuse it. There are also contingencies for times when events don't go as planned. So the crew that's worked on this show has said in the past that there are 12 different contingencies just for the first scene. So the performers have a backup plan and then a backup plan for the backup plan and et cetera for every possible scenario. Outside of the show, there also are some fun little things. There's a sign that reads, "Warning, do not pull rope." And if you pull it, you'll hear a man that's stuck in the bottom of the well and says different things depending on when you are pulling the rope. And then back in 1990, OSHA fined the park $1,000 after three performers were injured in three separate incidents. In one incident, a performer fell 30 feet when a restraining cable fell. In another incident, a performer fell 25 feet when a prop ladder unexpectedly collapsed. And then a third performer was pinned by a malfunctioning trap door. And so they cited Disney for, safety issues during these things. And later, while rehearsing a new, safer routine, another performer fell 25 feet onto concrete. Unfortunately, August 17th, 2009, a 30-year-old performer named Anislav Varbanov died after injuring his head while performing a tumbling role. And the next day, they canceled the show just to pay respect for him. If you've ever seen the show, it's intense. There's a lot of stunts, there's fire, there's explosions, there's punching, fake. Obviously, it's a lot of coordinated situations, but I can see how people could easily get hurt during this show. Something really cool about this that I love is that, Dad, you've been on this multiple times. Is that right?
Yeah, four
Three
times.
times. Okay. So when was the first time you went on it? I have pictures. I think it's like 2000 or something.
I would say probably around that. Yeah, we were already living down in Florida at the time. We've saw it so many times. I kind of knew where to sit, when to stand up and say, pick me for the
Yeah.
part that I wanted. Because I think there were four parts in the beginning that you had to kind of go up there and audition for.
Yeah.
And I think one was like a girl screaming, and then someone else, whatever. Mine was like the evil laugh one.
Yeah.
And so I did the evil laugh. I thought it sounded pretty good. So I always try to get up there for the evil laugh. And I think I got up there four times total
And
over.
all of them were the evil laugh.
Everyone was the evil laugh because I knew right where
Okay.
to stand. I knew the sequence. Again, we went there quite a bit, let's face it.
Yeah, and I've been in the show once. I think Regan also, I want to say Regan went on it once too before COVID. I have to
Yes,
ask him to
I think
verify
he
that.
did. Yeah, I
Okay.
think he did.
And you were there for my time on it because back in the day, this was like, gosh, 2014 or something like that when I went on it. And there were a lot of rumors about it closing. And everyone's like, oh, they're getting rid of Indiana Jones. They're going to make this whole Star Wars land, which is now Galaxy's Edge. And because Star Tours is right next door, everybody's like, oh, they're getting rid of it. They're going to scrap it. It's a huge amount of space that it takes up, which is true because the set, all the back area stuff, all the explosive stuff, it goes back pretty far. So it would be a huge plot of land. So we were like, oh no, it's going to close. And I had really wanted to get on it. I'd only, you have to be 18. And so when I was younger, that wasn't an option. And we didn't have annual passes for a little bit when I was older. But then as soon as I got my annual pass again, I was like, I've got to get on this show. So I don't even remember which part I did. I'm sure we have video of it somewhere. I think screaming or something. I don't know. There was like definitely the screaming, the laugh, and I can't remember what the other things were now that people used to have to do.
I think you were
But
picked for the scream.
the screaming, yeah, like
Yeah,
having
yeah,
to grab onto the person next to me and scream
yes.
bloody murder. But basically, they'd take you and you'd have to go up to the top of the stage, taken away from your family, get dressed up for your part. And this part changed a little bit too. Like initially, weren't you a little more involved in what was going on? And then as years went by, people were like less and less involved in the like street bazaar scene, or am I not remembering that right either?
Yeah, I think they pared that back quite a bit from when they first. We used to go up there and they put on these, crazy headdresses and
Yeah.
all these shawls and all these different clothes. I mean, it was a quick change thing. You're just changing back behind the seating back there up in the corner, if I remember right. And
Yeah.
then they followed down the gal who was doing all the instruction for your little bit part in it. But yeah, it did change a little bit as time went on. I think they had less and less people they called up, and I'm sad to hear that they don't call people up anymore because that was for me that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's like another thing that the whole initial theming of Hollywood studios, like we talked about last week, is that you were part of the movie. So like the great movie ride that your, host that was driving your buggy through the thing, I don't, buggy is the wrong word, but would get out and be part of the show. And then like on American Idol, you're part of the show, or like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you're part of the show. And so this was like you were in the show and it was really cool. As they got rid of stuff like that, it's a little bit of a bummer. I get like when COVID was going on, but we're pretty past that now. So it's like I wish that they would let, more audience participation happen again, because that was definitely one of the most exciting and entertaining parts of the show. It's still a really cool show. I still love it. I am surprised it's still around, but I know Indiana Jones kind of got a little bit of a revamp. They just had the newer movie not that long ago. And so Harrison Ford's still making a run at it, the poor guy. I remember when the one before this came out in like 2009, and I was like, I can't believe they're making another Indiana Jones. And then they made another one, so they just keep bringing him back around. Did you see the new Indiana Jones movie, Dad? Was it any good? I'm sure you did.
I have not.
Oh, really? Oh, that shocks
Yeah.
me because
No,
I feel
I
like,
loved all the other ones, and the fourth one I thought was terrible.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, back in 2009. But I heard this one was pretty good. But I can't speak to it because I haven't seen it. But I would like to see it. I'm sure we'll stream it at some time in the near future.
Yeah, we have not seen it. I think I have to take that back. I feel like maybe Maddie watched it. I don't think he saw it in the theater. I feel like we did stream it on Disney Plus or something, and he did say it was way better than he thought, I believe, but I have not watched it yet. But we do, yeah, we really love the movies. I think it's a great example of like a classic old school action movie. Temple of Doom is my personal favorite. It is just bizarre, but it's so fun to watch, and the old school effects are pretty cheesy at this point. It's just a really, really good action adventure movie that's not too scary for, younger family movie type thing. So yeah, anything else to add about this attraction, Dad, before we move to the next?
I will just always love it. I love the movies, and even though I know this attraction like the back of my hand, I know every part. I know the music. I can hear it in my head right now. And us as a family, all being kind of part of it at one point was really fun. Just really fond memories. I'm sure it'll go away at some point, like many of the attractions will. But I just have very fond memories about it. And I know I could go right now and probably it'd be a hoot to see. But I really, again, as we just talked about, I really wish they bring back the fact of bringing the guests into the show. I think that was just it was pretty comical. I think the crowd really enjoyed it. Maybe they'll come back. Who knows? It might have been a
Yeah.
cost cutting measure. They just I know it's in what way, but there's somebody. It's another person they don't have to pay to do that part. So
Yeah, to like bring
to
the
leave that
cast
group,
down.
who knows? It might have been something as simple as that. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head. And one thing you did mention in the airplane scene right at the end, I think they talked about, you said there was an injury with a trap door. I think that's the trap door you're talking about, where the propeller in the movie basically just, cuts the guy up, right? That's the way he
Yeah,
dies.
yeah.
The blood goes flying. And I think that's probably that. I think there's a trap door there where the guy disappears through that, make it look like the prop, cut him up and all of a sudden he's just gone. I don't, got chewed right up. But I think that's probably the trap door where the guy got hurt back in
Oh,
the
and so
day.
maybe that's why they got rid of it now that he
That,
doesn't die
that's my
because
thought. Yeah, that's my thought.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the show, it really is impressive, especially for it being very similar to how it was initially in the 80s. There's a lot of stunts and like you have to get the timing just right and explosions, and it's a really, in my opinion, really cool show. One of the best shows at Disney altogether. So, yeah, I definitely hope that they keep this one around. I'm glad that the rumors were wrong thus far and it hasn't gone anywhere. I hope that they don't get rid of it. It's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
I need to ask you, since you've probably seen it more recently, do they still pull the actor out of the crowd with the bright floral shirt on?
No.
They don't do that.
I
Okay,
don't think
that was kind of fun.
yeah, I don't think so. And again, we just saw this last year. You'd think I would remember, but I'm pretty sure they don't. And you know what's funny? That just triggered my memory. is in Full House. They had an episode where they went to Disney, and it was one of the Full House characters, like Joey or someone, that got pulled out of the crowd to be part of the show. And I think like I want to say DJ was like dreaming of Steve or something, and they have this dream sequence where he's like part of the show, or there is something about a Full House episode that I'm like, yeah, and maybe Joey was the guy in the floral shirt, or maybe Steve was. I don't know, but that's so funny. I forgot about that. I don't think they do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where you and then it ends up being that's the like stunt guy, and you think that the sequence is really fake, but or you think it's real or whatever, like it's a
Right,
actor. I think
right.
now instead they just do like a fake fight sequence, and you think that he's really getting hurt by the girl that plays Karen, or that's supposed to be Karen or whatever. And then she punches him, and then you end up like it's all fake, obviously. And he gets up and but I don't think they do the other thing anymore. I think it's just like
Okay.
they pull one of the actors from the scene or something like that. But yeah, I do remember that too. Yeah, so I guess a few things have changed over the years with that. But moving to the next attraction, so Star Tours The Adventure Continues is right next door. And oddly enough, the way that this is set up, this is not in Galaxy's Edge. So it is funny to me that it's right next door. It doesn't connect because of actually, well, technically right now, the Muppets area being in between the two. Pretty soon it will be Monstropolis, and they didn't move this. I'm surprised that they didn't wipe Muppets back then and make Galaxy's Edge start sooner. That really surprised me just because it's all right there, but they didn't. This attraction initially opened December 15th, 1989, so a few months after the park opened, and it did first come to Disneyland, which I guess I didn't realize. I knew it was at Disneyland. It debuted at Disneyland in 1987 and was the first attraction based originally on a non-Disney licensed intellectual property. So back when it came to Disneyland, Disney did not own Star Wars and didn't have the partnership with Lucas that they do today. So George Lucas made this deal with Disney. And instead of completely dismissing the idea of using a simulator attraction that they had originally been proposed to them by an Imagineer, the company decided to make use of this partnership that they had between Disney and George Lucas, who is the creator of Star Wars, obviously, for those of you who do not know. And the partnership began in 1986 because of Captain EO, which is funny to me. So that started the partnership. And Captain EO, for those of you who are not familiar, was a 3D musical film starring Michael Jackson. It was for a short time done at Epcot and was in the theater right next to Figment. So now that is something different. It's a Pixar short film festival, which we'll talk about when we get to Epcot. It was at the California park initially. And so Disney then approached George Lucas about doing this Star Tours attraction. And so they got his approval. They purchased four military grade flight simulators at a cost of $500,000 each. At the time, that had to be like, gosh, I don't even know how much that would cost today, and designed the ride structure based off of these flight simulators. So at the same time, George Lucas and his team with special effects technicians at the Industrial Lights and Magic produced the first person perspective film that would be projected inside these simulators. So they kind of worked to put this film together. And when both the simulator and the film were completed, a programmer then sat inside and used a joystick to synchronize the movement of the actual simulator with the movement on the screen, which what a fun job that would be. On January 9th, 1987, at a final cost of $32 million, the ride opened to the public, and a lot of people came dressed up in Star Wars characters for this grand opening. And Disneyland remained open for a 60-hour marathon from January 9th at 10 a.m. to January 11th at 10 p.m. in honor of this. I did not know any of this history. Did you know this, Dad, about Disneyland and it staying open 60 hours?
No, I've never heard that before.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, wow,
That
I
is
know
crazy.
Star Wars is a huge fan base, but I was shocked to hear that they stayed open that long and it was this big of a thing. But it was the first Star Wars attraction, so it was obviously very popular. Then on August, jumping ahead a little bit, August 14th, 2010, Disney's Hollywood Studios hosted the quote unquote last tour to Endor event exclusively for Celebration V or 5, sorry y'all, I don't know Star Wars, attendees at Disney's Hollywood Studios from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. And they had entertainment features and events, which included George Lucas himself. They had character appearances, the Jedi Training Academy, Death Star Disco, Bespin Stage Dance Party, Raiders of the Lost Jedi Temple of Doom, which was a fan film of epic proportions. They had this live show of it, Hyperspace Hoopla, the Symphony and the Stars fireworks, and the Star Tour shutdown ceremony. So the Star Tour shutdown ceremony was live with these characters like C-3PO, R2-D2, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, and Stormtroopers, which powered down the original Star Tours attraction. Instead of R2-D2 simply shutting it off, Boba Fett actually destroyed the ride's power supply using a thermal detonator. And they used these pyrotechnics to make it look like it was exploding, basically. But the ride actually stayed open after that shutdown ceremony until September 7th, 2010, when the attraction held its final flight to Endor, which was exclusive only for D23 members. So they had quite the shutdown for this before they redid it and brought in what it is today, like the Adventure Continues version of this attraction. So in 1998, Disney began to plan the upgrade. So they had been planning it for quite a long time before it actually happened, like 12 years prior. And there was the 1999 film Star Wars Episode 1 coming out, which was the first film of the new prequel trilogy. So they decided to incorporate new flight sequences from that. Passengers going to the Bunta Eve Classic Podres. Sorry, guys, I do not pronounce any of these because I don't know anything about Star Wars. Captain Rex would still be a part of the new version, and the droids in the queue would be working on engines and different components from the movie. But the version would be in 3D with glasses resembling Anakin Skywalker's goggles. However, then they decided, well, if we just base it off of this new ride, it'll be outdated when the new two upcoming movies come out. So they decided to just wait until Revenge of the Sith came out before they started to remodel. So the remodel just took a lot longer than they anticipated, but they were working on it for years prior before it happened. But at the 2009 D23 Expo in Anaheim, Walt Disney Imagineering announced that Star Tours at Disneyland and Hollywood Studios would both be closing in October 2010 for total renovation and would reopen in May and June 2011 as what it's known today, Star Tours The Adventure Continues. So, similar to the original, The Adventure Continues utilizes the same hydraulic motion-based cabin and these Atlas or Advanced Technology Leisure Application simulators, which feature a lot of degrees of freedom, including the ability to move 35 degrees in an XYZ plane. So in the original versions, passengers rode in this vehicle named the Star Speeder 3000. And since the new attraction is set before the original film, they changed it to the Star Speeder 1000. And unlike the original Star Tours, the ride actually has 21 segments that are chosen at random during each viewing, which is what I think a lot of Star Wars fans love about this ride is in all the different combinations, there's 54 different experiences that you can have. So every time you go on, you're probably getting a different experience. And so re-rideability is huge for attractions. And that I think is what's kept this attraction alive for so long. They did add two new segments in 2015 to promote The Force Awakens. Then they had that solely for a little bit during this season of the Force event, but afterwards the randomization was added back in and they included those in the new variation so that you could get those scenes. And then they've added a bunch of different scenes in addition to that. So things from The Last Jedi, as well as The Rise of Skywalker. So they've just kept adding in new sequences that make it even more different than what you could originally get. Something else that I thought was really neat is John Williams, who composed the music for Star Wars, approached Walt Disney Imagineering about writing the music. And then once he looked at everything, he decided, I don't really think anything new needs to be written. We should just use original music from the films, which I think was the right move because the music from Star Wars is classic. And so they also did use some unused parts of the film scores that he and his music editor found, and they all put this into this attraction. There also was another person named Michael Giacchino who provided additional arrangements of Star Wars themes used for commercials and pre-show videos of the attraction. The signature Star Tours logo chimes, which was composed by Richard Bellis, remained in the attraction as well. This is, like we said, at Disneyland, obviously, but also Tokyo Disneyland and Disneyland Paris. And the Florida ride was actually inspired by the Ewok Village on Endor, while the California, Japan, and France rides are modeled after a spaceport. So the one in Florida is pretty unique. And actually, I cannot stand this attraction because of the motion sickness. I just like really have a hard time with screens and moving. But the queue is my favorite part. Like the whole outdoor, all of the huge, like you feel like you're going, again, very immersive, going into the movie when you're walking through and you see C3PO and R2D2. And that's my favorite part of this attraction. But what are your thoughts on this attraction, Dad, and all the changes that it's been through over the years? Is it one that you guys usually go on or usually skip?
Well, we normally go on this. I've gone on this right along. I think it's very well done. The renovations they've made over the years just makes it better. You're right, though. If you have any problem with motion sickness, you're going to be in
Ugh.
trouble on this ride. And I know people will probably be shocked, but I never was a huge Star Wars fan, even though I really appreciate the movies. I saw the first three, of course. That's back in my day, and it was huge back then, and it's still today. I'm sure it's grown and grown and grown as more generations have enjoyed it. But I think there's a point where I wish Disney would just kind of like stop continuing the story on and on and on and on. And I've heard this from a lot of people that are real big fans that wish they just kind of find some way of just kind of finalizing everything. I wish they
Yeah.
would have done that probably 10 or 15 years ago. They just brought it off and it just kept shooting up in different branches all over, animated series and all these different things. And I know it makes money and people like it, but I never really was just a huge fan. I was probably more of an Indiana Jones fan than I ever was a Star Wars fan because I'm not a big sci-fi guy. But I do love the ride. I know the characters for the most part, especially from the first three movies, the trilogy there. And I just think it's very well done. But again, do not go on it if you have any sort of motion sickness because you'll be in trouble.
Yeah, I'm always in trouble. This is one on the challenge that similar to, which we'll talk about a little bit when we get into Galaxy's Edge, but similar to the newer version of this ride that I think is very similar. I just have to close my eyes and wish for the best because I super struggle with this. I cannot look at the screen and do the motion. That just really gets me. So I have to do that. I do think that it's well done. I think for Star Wars fans, it's like the ultimate just being able to go to Galaxy's Edge now, but this was where it started. Another cool thing that I wanted to mention was the simulators that they used in this ride are the same that they had used in Body Wars at Epcot, which we did talk about in our Parks of the Past Epcot episode. It is the same simulator. So it's funny to see like that technology is still around this long after. It is a really, yeah, really immersive and neat attraction. And like I said, the rewritability just makes it really cool. So yeah, that's the Star Tours The Adventure continues. So the next attraction in this area is an attraction called Vacation Fun, and this opened March 4th, 2020. So again, same time as like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway right before COVID hit. And this is in the same area. It replaced Star Wars Path of the Jedi, and I think used to have the Sounds Dangerous show in this same little corner, but it's really just like a Mickey's Shorts theater that shows these 11-minute Mickey Mouse cartoons called Vacation Fun that have some of the different newer best Mickey Mouse cartoons all blended into one thing. And it did really just take like a bunch of different clips and make it into a little movie that you sit there and watch. We've never gone into this. We never went into it when it was the Star Wars Path of the Jedi or Sounds Dangerous. So I guess I've never been in this. In my head, I thought that this is where Olaf is, but I guess this is a little further down. The Olaf meet and greet is a little bit towards the middle of this section. But yeah, have you ever been in this, Dad, for anything? Because we never went on Sounds Dangerous, and I never went on Star Wars Path of the Jedi or this Vacation Fun.
No, when we first moved to Florida in the late 90s, I remember going by Sounds Dangerous with Drew Carey. And I always thought we should go in there and check that out, but we just never did for whatever reason, because I like to see everything, even if it's good, bad, or indifferent. At these parks, you're paying the money. Let's go check it out. You might like it. You never
Yeah.
know. But no, I've never even been in that building.
Yeah, me either. It was funny to think about this and like, yeah, it's just weird that we've never been in there. Now part of me wants to go in there, but just to say I did it.
Sure.
But yeah, nope, never been in there. Not much else to say about that one. And then moving to our last attraction in this section of the park, one that I'm so bummed out about because of all the things that have been there in the past. But for the first time in forever, a Frozen celebration, which opened July 5th, 2014. There were some things about this show that I didn't know when I was looking it up, but one thing that I didn't know was it originally premiered at the Premiere Theater in the Streets of America section of Disney's Hollywood Studios during the 2014 Frozen Summer of Fun on July 5th, 2014. It was initially intended just to be a temporary show that would end once the event ended. People loved it, and the banter between the people in the beginning was so popular, the show was so well received that it decided to take up permanent residence in the newly renamed Hyperion Theater on June 17th, 2015, and has been there ever since. I did not know that it wasn't always in this theater. Did you know that?
I didn't know it. And I'm thinking the streets of America must have been like New York Street where they had the Osborne Festival of
Yeah.
Lights. I'm thinking the Premiere Theater must have been where they had the Hunchback of Notre Dame, maybe.
Well, I thought that, but then I thought they got rid of that theater and put like a San Francisco like backdrop. I gotta
Drop.
look up where this is. This is gonna drive
Yeah.
me crazy.
Okay.
No, you're right. So it was formerly known, that's funny, so they must have just covered it up. It was formerly known as the Backlot Theater, which is where Hunchback was from 1993 to 2002. Initially, what was shown there was Beauty and the Beast live on stage before it got moved over to where it is. And then Spirit of Pocahontas, which was only there for like a not even a year. Then Hunchback came, then was only used seasonally for special events, but and then Frozen. So that's funny. I wonder, I feel like I need to look at a map, but yeah, okay. So I guess it was the same theater. It's funny how they rename things, and then I'm like, I don't know what that is, but it was called the Backlot Theater until this Frozen show was there and like Star Wars weekend stuff was there. And the theater where it is now used to have the American Idol. And then before that, our favorite Doug Live was there for a
Yeah.
long time. So, and then Superstar Television was there initially before that. So there was a lot in the theater, but this actually the theater had sat empty for quite a long time, kind of between shows, and then this one kind of moved in. So it has been there now for it'll be 10 years this year. It's been open for 10 years technically if you count since it was at the other theater initially. And during the Christmas season, the show that is there, the Frozen show, does add an additional 5 minutes to include an appearance from Olaf, who sings That Time of Year from the 2017 animated featurette Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which my girls absolutely love. The royal historians of Arendelle, Eric and Arya, are portrayed by these live actors and they retell the first Frozen film, adding in some comedy and wordplay and then some audience interaction as well. But then there's really just like a sing along on the screen. At the end, Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff appear live on stage and sometimes kind of in between things, but they're not ever live singing. So I think what disappoints me about this show, I know I've harped on this podcast a lot, how much I hate this show and people love it, is that it's not live. So it's not like Beauty and the Beast where they're live singing and dancing. And I think I love that show so much. And I loved Hunchback so much that to go to this where it's just a screen of the sing along most of the time and these two people telling corny jokes, I was kind of like very disappointed by this show, which is sad. But my girls love Frozen, so I probably should give it another chance. I just haven't yet. So this is one that they do also, I didn't know this, they have it at California Adventure, Disneyland Paris, Hong Kong Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland Park. The only other Disney park with performances currently is Shanghai. So it's not still at all the other parks anymore, except for Hollywood Studios and Shanghai, I guess. But it was at one time at California Adventure and Disneyland Paris, as well as Hong Kong Disneyland. But you've seen this at least once, Dad, right? Or only once?
Only once. I went last January when we took Michaela, who was a big Frozen fan when it first came out when she
Yeah.
was little. Now, when I took her there with her friend, these ages were 15 and 16, and they rolled their eyes through the whole thing. I basically dragged him in there. So let's check this out. I've never seen it. I thought the jokes were, I like corny jokes. So I thought the jokes were entertaining. Yeah, then when you started all singing along to the songs, it's like I was looking for the exit pretty fast.
Yeah.
But that's me. But for kids and kids your age, kids that are in elementary school, younger, elementary, it's perfect. I think I can see why families would probably really enjoy it while it's still hanging around. The movie was huge,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
surprised they haven't updated it with more from the second movie because that music to me is even better. But I do wish that it was like a full live stage performance, just like the other shows. I mean, I miss Hunchback a lot. So yeah, that's a bummer. And then hopping on over into the dining option. So there are two different sit-down restaurants in this area and then a couple of quick service as well. And the first one is Hollywood and Vine. This was an opening day restaurant, so May 1st, 1989. And it was formerly called Hollywood and Vine Cafeteria of the Stars and was a cafeteria service type restaurant. But it is located right next to the 50s Primetime Cafe. The Hollywood and Vine is one of the three restaurants in the park that offers early entry into the show Fantasmic. So there's special dining package for Fantasmic with that. Prior to 1998, the restaurant was a cafeteria style, and Of the Stars was added to the name that year because of the recognition of the restaurant's newly instituted star themed character meals. But today they do have a breakfast and a lunch and dinner. It is a buffet, so everything is served buffet style, kind of similar to Crystal Palace. And the breakfast is more Disney Junior characters. So right now it said Doc McStuffins, Sophia the First, Roadster Racers, Goofy, and Vampirina. And it's very inexpensive compared to the other character dining, probably because unless you have a toddler who watches these shows, you don't care about these characters. But it's $33 for kids, $49 per adult. And then at lunch and dinner, it's the classic people. So Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and Goofy, the Fab Five. The prices are $42 per child and $63 per adult, and it's a buffet. So for buffets, as far as that goes, it's pretty normal price for all those characters to be there. I don't know that we've eaten here. Have you eaten here, Dad? I don't remember eating here ever.
No, I don't think we ever went there as a family. I never went there, later. I don't think I've even stepped inside the restaurant, just to kind of check it out or look into it. But yeah, it's been there, yeah, opening day. I know it's been there right along. It's supposed to be very popular.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like in my head, I always knew like obviously the Brown Derby, but then we've been to 50s Primetime Cafe, so I always thought of that. I guess I never even like thought I knew the name and I know it's there, especially now having kids with the character dining, seeing it as an option. But in my head, I guess like as a kid, I always skipped over this one. I don't know why, but it's just not one that I ever really thought about. So that is, yeah, like I said, sit down buffet style, one price. Then we do have the 50s Primetime Cafe, which is right next door, another opening restaurant. So it's funny they were both kind of right there. And the restaurant really represents a 1950s diner. The waitresses dress kind of like June Cleaver and Leave It to Beaver, and they all act like they're the mother of the guests that they're serving. So I don't know. I guess if they have male people, they'd act like the father, but to the point that they like scold you and give you a little discipline if they're quote unquote misbehaving. And there's like a home cooked meal in the kitchen that your servers are your family and they'll tell you to wash your hands or eat your veggies or keep your elbows off the table. And it's funny, I remember going to this restaurant for sure once. I don't know if I've been to it more than that. And well, maybe twice. Maybe I went here once with Mom and Aunt Ruth and Uncle John one time. I'm trying to remember, but it's supposed to look like a 1950s kitchen. They do have like the Bakelite, Fiesta ware, Formica tables that it looks like I Love Lucy or Father's Knows Best. That's kind of what they designed it off of. And the menus are very classic, like meatloaf, fried chicken, pot roast chicken, pot pie. And they supposedly have the best milkshakes on Disney property besides the Beach Club shakes. That's what I read online from a couple different sources. And guests can watch this classic TV that has shows in black and white, like Leave It to Beaver and Topper, while they enjoy their dinner. And this restaurant, it's funny. I read online like it's similar to the restaurant called Dick's where they're just so rude to you and they draw on things and it's like part of the meal. things like that just like do not appeal to me. I don't like being embarrassed. I don't like being called out. So I remember going here and like they made some comment and I got embarrassed as a kid and I was kind of like, all right, that's it for me. But it's just not my favorite. But now I'm like, oh, the food does sound good. Like a good pot roast sounds delicious. I don't really remember anything. I do remember getting a milkshake and enjoying it. But what do you remember about this restaurant, Dad?
Yeah, I remember you being embarrassed. And I think Regan just wanted to leave at some point pretty quickly. I really wasn't a big fan because I'm like you. I didn't really want to get pointed out for different things.
Yeah.
It's funny that I mean the waitresses are funny. It's all the 50s, and I really like the decor. I'm really
Yeah.
into all that stuff. If you see my game room over the years, it kind of has that feel to it. So I'm really into that that era. But yeah, it was. I guess for a Joel, that's a little embarrassing to go to a place like that. Would rather just kind of be left alone. Let us have our good, you know, buffet style meal or whatever, or all you can eat meal, and just keep bringing the food and shut up. Don't say
Yeah.
anything.
I can't imagine like Grandma Audrey sitting in that restaurant. I can
No, I
just
never would have taken her. Yeah, I never would have taken her to a place like that. That would have been rough.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, I think the theming is cool, but I think if we're gonna go with a theme like this, I much rather prefer sci-fi, which we'll talk a little bit about, but it in a couple of episodes once we get there. But yeah, this it just didn't do it for me. So I'd be fine never going back there again. And it is a one you pay for your entree, you can get an appetizer. They do have different drinks. They also have the tune-in lounge which was an opening day lounge, which surprised me. I didn't even know they had lounges back in the day, but from what I could find, correct me if I'm wrong, this was there on opening day, and they do offer unique cocktails today that are called things like Dad's Electric Lemonade, the Tune In PB&J, which sounds disgusting to me, cocktail, Grandma's Picnic Punch, Toasted Marshmallow Old Fashioned, and they do offer the full menu from the restaurant over there as well. So just another option of another little lounge that if you're into that kind of a thing, they do have some different unique to that location drinks and stuff. The next place on the list is Epic Eats, and this is really just a stand that sells funnel cakes, root beer floats, and they do have some alcoholic beverages, kind of ranges from $6 to $16. I can't say I've ever eaten here. I don't remember a place that served floats in Hollywood studios besides like a sit down restaurant. Do you?
No, and yeah, I was surprised because you would typically would you find those root beer floats somewhere, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, so no, I don't even exactly know where that would be. So yeah, I would have no clue.
And then Oasis Canteen. This is an assortment of mixed drinks. It's basically a full bar that used to be where Epic Eats is. And then they opened this new location, but it's basically just a bar. So another thing, never been to, don't necessarily need to go there. The Backlot Express is a quick service, and this was an opening day quick service. Shockingly enough, that's still there, May 1st, 1989. And this offers things like pulled pork sandwiches. They actually have teriyaki chicken bowls, which Maddie has gotten before, burgers, of course, chicken strips, of course, and like Southwest salads. And I ate here. So this is somewhere that Maddie actually really likes the quick service in Hollywood Studios. There's a few different places he enjoys, but the commissary is one, and this is another. And Eiley and I ate here with Steph last year when we were there. And I was shocked how big it is down there. There's a lot of seating. It's indoors, so it's covered, air conditioned. It's a nice place to take a break. They do actually have refillable soda, so tip if you want to sit down and be able to refill your drink, you can do it there. So, we bought a soda and then just refilled right at the station before we left and took one to go. Or like they have water and ice that you can refill your own water bottles at right there too, which is always a plus. They don't have that often anymore. So yeah, the food is it's park food. I don't think it's amazing. Maddie really does like the teriyaki chicken bowl there, but we usually just get a burger. And this is somewhere that I think we ate at a few times as kids, but I actually remember eating back towards Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I thought that was Backlot Express, but I guess it was called something else. The quick service, like right by the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground. I gotta look that up.
Yeah, as you move to the back of the park, I thought the Backlot Express it had a roof over it, but I thought it was kind of an open air
So
with a bunch
yeah,
of red
that's
tables. Isn't that what you're thinking of? It was like a big
no.
open air thing.
This is actually like by Indiana Jones.
Oh,
So
oh, okay. I
it's
know where that is. I know where it is now. Yes.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I was thinking exactly what you were thinking. So I thought that was called Backlot Express.
I don't even know if that other one I'm talking about's there. Is it still there?
No, I don't think so because now that would be like Toy Story Land or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but I'm gonna look this up. Quick service
I,
restaurant
I,
by
yeah, I know where you're talking about now. It's as you're walking up to Indy, it's to the right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yep.
And so
I know where
I
that
guess
is.
that restaurant was called Studio Catering Company.
Okay.
And that was like that's what we're thinking of. I'm looking at the pictures right
Okay.
now, and that was like, yeah, the red tables open air
Yes.
and served okay. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I thought that because that was right by the backlot tour.
Yeah,
So
that was right before you get to the backlot tour, which I thought backlot express. I thought it was the same thing. So
yeah.
apparently not. Okay.
We're learning new things today. Yeah,
Sure.
I thought the same thing. I was like, I could have sworn that was called something with backlot, but I guess not. So yeah, this is right to the right of Indiana Jones, kind of between Indiana Jones and Star Tours. Actually, where you park your stroller, you have to kind of be careful because that thing shoots water from the Star Tours ride, and so your stroller can get wet, or you can get wet when you're parking it. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, this is a nice little quiet spot to eat and has more than just burgers if you don't want a burger, twice in one day, like us crazy people. And then the Dockside Diner. This is the restaurant, a quick service restaurant that's more like a counter service, but looks like a boat that's kind of sitting on Echo Lake, and they offer different kinds of hot dogs with all kinds of like different things on them, mac and cheese. They do also have coffee there, Joffrey's coffee, chocolate and vanilla shakes, and some alcoholic options too. Um, but yeah, this is somewhere that I think we've walked up and like gotten something before, but we didn't really go here very much. We're not huge hot dog people, but I knew exactly what it was when I heard the name. And then Dinosaur Gertie's. This is another little window service, but apparently it's not open very often. So it's very seasonal, kind of depends on the weather and the busy time. This is solely like a treats place. So they do soft serve ice cream. They do have sugar and waffle cones, as well as the premium ice cream bars. So you can usually get like a Mickey bar or Mickey's ice cream sandwich here, popsicles, stuff like that. And I always thought it was an interesting place to put this random dinosaur. So I read a little bit more about the history of Gertie, which is the dinosaur's name. She was a creation of a cartoonist, Winsor McCay, and he worked for the New York Times and was widely considered to be the father of animation. So he created Gertie for one of his shorts back in 1914, and he used around 10,000 individual hand draw images to bring Gertie to life, which is really cool. So back in the very beginning of making animation, and obviously, Gertie wasn't the first cartoon, but her likable personality and lifelike movements made her an enduring cartoon. And as a result, we know that he kind of paved the way for Walt Disney, which is, I guess, why they included her in the park, which I found to be interesting. I was like, huh, I wonder why this random dinosaur is here, and just kind of went down this rabbit hole. But did you know this history about Gertie, Dad, the dinosaur? I didn't even know her name was Gertie until like a year ago.
Knew it was Gertie. I remember reading about it somewhere that it was one of the earlier cartoons that didn't have sound. I think sound didn't even come into play until like the late 20s. Um, on cartoons or movies in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, we actually just got ice cream from there last January. We bought ice cream from there. It's a soft serve, the classic soft serve ice cream that we always got
Yeah.
because we were dying for ice cream. But yeah, yeah, I think that's been there right along, right, since the very beginning.
Yeah, I think so too. And was it just like chocolate or vanilla, or did they have like Dole Whip flavors there?
I think it was just chocolate and vanilla, if I remember right.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember. I know that we stopped there as kids. I remember stopping there as a kid, is right outside Indiana Jones, kind of. But it is like tucked away. Like, I don't know that you see the huge dinosaur, but I don't know that you'd know what it was unless you walked up to it. So,
Right.
yeah, it just kind of depends. And then the characters in this area, really the only one that's like listed is Olaf, and he has his own whole section indoors that you go into. It's called Celebrity Spotlight. We've met him there. From what I recall, unless it's changed, he does not sign autographs. He gives like a little stamped card. So if you're looking for him to sign something, I'm pretty sure he does not. And he just does a stamp card, but you can get your picture with him, obviously. That's the only character that I can recall. Is there anything else about this Echo Lake section of the park, Dad, that you can think of that you wanted to add, or anything that I'm missing that you can think of? There's not a lot of like shops and stuff except for the Indiana Jones shop and just like little carts and stuff, but like
Right.
outdoor shops.
In the restaurants that you already mentioned, the classic restaurants there. I know at Christmas time, if I remember right, they put some kind of pretty decorations that are floating out in the water. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've ever been out there. It's at Christmas it was kind of cool, but yeah, it's just part of the park that's been kind of the same for the park's inception since '89, which is that alone I think is kind of neat. But yeah, that's about all I have.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a pretty big like space-wise area, even though there's not a ton of attractions, it is large like in acres. So I am surprised they've kept it for so long, but I'm glad, like we talked about, glad they haven't gotten rid of some of these classic things that have been there forever. So be interesting to see what happens with it over time. And then moving into our old versus new, this one is might be a little bit tough, might not. Today it is Indiana Jones versus the Lights Motor Action Stunt Show. I tried to pick two different similar vibe shows because there's so many great shows out there, but do you have a preference of which one you prefer? Are you glad that of the two they kept Indiana Jones, or did you think you would rather long term have the stunt show stick around?
I honestly liked both of them a lot, very much. We went to both of those many times. I thought the Lights Motor Action Stunt Show was very creative in what they did. I remember, I think Herbie the Love Bug was in it too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's part of it. But the driving was amazing, and the set behind it was like a French town, if I remember right.
yeah,
Like from the French Connection, the movie, way back in the day, with all the chase scenes and all the cool car scenes. Um, but it's going to have to be Indiana Jones. It just has to be.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have just a real strong connection to that.
I feel like I was very similar in trying to decide. Like, I really love Indiana Jones, but I really also love the Lights Motor Action. I think the one thing about Lights Motor Action is both of them were weather dependent because the actual Indiana Jones set, if it's pouring down rain or lightning, they can't perform, and same with the stunt show. But Indiana Jones is a little shorter. And I like that only because I do feel like the Cars one was so far back and it was like, I think it was like 40 minutes or something. It was a long show
It's a
by the
long
time you
show.
got in there. They did have Herbie the Love Bug, and then they also had Lightning McQueen after Cars came out, and he would come out and do his little ka-chow thing. Both of them are just really neat, really well done shows. But I agree. I think I'm glad they kept Indiana Jones over the other one. I think after a while, for whatever reason, Indiana Jones doesn't seem to be boring to me. But the stunt show, not that it was boring, but it was kind of like, all right, they could have mixed it up a little bit more or done like a little bit of different set or something. For whatever reason, that one started towards the end. I was like, okay, Indiana Jones, I'm glad they've kept. So yeah, I agree for sure. And then our quiz this week. So this is another Toy Story question. It's funny, a lot of these Hollywood studios have to do a Toy Story. Who leads the balloon pop game in Toy Story Mania? Is it Buzz and Trixie, Rex and Slinky, Rex and Trixie, or the Green Army Men? Well, I know it's not the Army Men because they do the plates. I want to say it's Rex and Trixie, and Trixie's that dinosaur from the third
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I would agree with you on that. I honestly don't know, but that's gonna be my guess too.
Okay, yep, that's right. Ooh, two
Oh
weeks in a
wow,
row
two
that
for
we're getting
two.
the trivia.
Wow, that was a guess for me. I didn't have a I mean I've been on I love the attraction. I know we'll probably talk about it down the road, but I do love that attraction also.
Yes, yeah, we'll definitely get into it. That Maddie and I were talking about our favorite attractions across all the parks last night because he recently was listening to our Magic Kingdom episode and was like very concerned about Regan saying Space Mountain was in the bottom five, but he was like, Toy Story Mania is still up there for us. We really love it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about that as we get into the Toy Story land. But thanks so much everybody for listening and joining us again. We hope that you've enjoyed these Hollywood Studios episodes, and just remember to play along with our fun that we have going on with our March Madness and the rides bracketology, attractions bracketology that is happening over on Instagram. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go over to our stories and our highlights and you'll see what we have going on. We're doing this 2025 attraction showdown in honor of March Madness. So yeah, we look forward to seeing y'all over there, and we hope that y'all have a good week.
See you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Soarin Around WDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.